The night shift at Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station was usually quiet. Tom Miller sat at his desk, sipping his third cup of coffee, watching the usual stream of data from the outer solar system. The soft hum of computers and gentle beeping of monitoring equipment filled the room. Then something changed. The signal patterns on his screen shifted. At first, he thought it was a glitch, the kind that sometimes happened when space debris interfered with their sensors. But this was different. The energy readings were unlike anything he'd seen before. "Control, this is Station 7. Tom spoke into his headset, trying to keep his voice steady. "I'm picking up unusual energy signatures near the Kuiper Belt. You might want to take a look at this." Within minutes, the quiet monitoring station transformed into a hub of activity. Scientists and analysts rushed to their stations, confirming what Tom had discovered. The energy readings were massive, far too organized to be natural, and they were accompanied by something else, a signal. The United Space Command received the alert within the hour. Admiral Reynolds stood in the command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the mysterious readings. The signal was clearly artificial, repeating in patterns that suggested intelligence, but in a language unlike anything in their databases. "It's a distress call," announced Dr. Adams, the lead signals analyst. "The pattern matches universal distress protocols, repeated bursts with increasing intensity. Someone out there needs help." Admiral Reynolds didn't hesitate. "Contact the Horizon. They're our best rescue vessel, and they're already in the outer system doing research work." The Horizon was a marvel of human engineering. While not the largest ship in Earth's fleet, it was the most versatile. Captain James Walker received the alert while his crew was studying ice formations on Neptune's moon Triton. "All hands to stations," his voice echoed through the ship's corridors. "We've got a rescue mission. Plot a course for these coordinates." The Horizon's engines roared to life, pushing the ship through space at speeds that would have seemed impossible just a decade ago. The crew worked efficiently, preparing rescue equipment and medical supplies for every possibility they could think of. "Whatever we find out there," Walker addressed his crew, "remember your training. We might be making history today, but our job is to help those in need. That's what humans do." As they approached the source of the signal, the ship's sensors began picking up more details. What they found left everyone speechless. Floating silently in the void were ships, dozens of them. No, hundreds. The vessels were massive, their designs completely alien, with smooth curves and materials that seemed to shift color as the Horizon's lights played across their surfaces. "Life signs?" Walker asked his science officer. "Thousands, sir," came the reply. "Most are very faint, like they're in some kind of suspended animation. But there are a few stronger readings. Whoever they are, they're alive, but their ships appear to be completely powered down." Walker made a decision. Following first contact protocols, they broadcast a message in multiple formats, including simple mathematical sequences that any advanced civilization should understand. They waited. The response came quickly, a transmission containing visual data. The ship's computers processed it, and a hologram appeared in the bridge. The image showed beings that were clearly not human, but not too different either. They stood upright, had 2 arms and 2 legs, though their skin seemed to have a bluish tint, and their eyes were larger than human ones. The alien beings appeared to be in distress. Behind them, emergency lights flashed, and frost was forming on the walls of their ship. Their life support was failing. "Universal Translator is working on their language," reported the communications officer. "But their gestures are pretty clear. They need help." Walker stood up from his command chair. This was the moment that would define not just his career, but perhaps all of human history. They were about to become the first humans to make contact with an alien civilization, and that civilization needed their help. "Send word to Earth," he ordered. "Tell them we found the source of the signal. It's a refugee fleet, and they're in trouble. And let them know we're going to help." He turned to his crew. "This is what we train for, people. Let's show them what humanity can do. The horizon moved closer to the alien fleet, its running lights illuminating the massive ships. The first chapter in humanity's greatest rescue mission was about to begin. The Horizon's engineering team worked quickly to establish a safe docking connection with the largest alien vessel. Chief Engineer Mark Peters led the boarding party, dressed in protective suits just in case the alien atmosphere proved dangerous. The airlock cycled, and they entered a world of shadows and emergency lighting. Temperature is just above freezing, Mark reported, checking his instruments. Air composition is similar to Earth's, but low on oxygen. Keep your suits on. The corridors were wide and curved, designed for beings slightly taller than humans. Emergency lights cast a dim blue glow across walls that seemed to be made of some kind of living metal. The surface rippled slightly when touched, despite being completely solid. They found the bridge easily enough. The aliens had transmitted basic ship layouts to help the rescue team. Inside, they found 5 aliens working desperately at their stations. Unlike their sleeping companions, these crew members had stayed awake to keep their people alive. The alien captain, who introduced himself as Commander Wren through a combination of gestures and basic mathematical communications, stood taller than the humans. His skin had a slight shimmer to it, and his large eyes seemed to catch every detail of the rescue team. The universal translator was starting to make sense of their language. Quantum drive, failure, power systems, cascade. It pieced together from their conversations. The ship's engineer, Lisa Torres, realized what had happened. Their main power system uses some kind of quantum technology, she explained to Captain Walker over the comlink. When it failed, it took down everything connected to it. They managed to switch to emergency power, but it's running out. That's why they had to put most of their people in cryogenic sleep. The numbers were staggering. Over 50,000 refugees were in suspended animation across the fleet. They had fled from their home system after a hostile empire had tried to force them into servitude. The refugee fleet had planned to find an uninhabited system to settle in, but their advanced drive systems had failed in mid-journey. "How long have you been drifting?" Walker asked through the translator. The answer shocked everyone. 3 of your Earth years, Commander Wren replied. We lost power gradually. First the main drives, then auxiliary systems. We had to shut down ship after ship, moving everyone into cryogenic pods to survive. Only essential crew remained awake, trying to find a solution. The human engineers spread out through the ship, studying the alien technology. It was far more advanced than anything Earth had developed, but that advancement had become a weakness. The quantum systems were so complex and interconnected that when one part failed, it created a cascade effect through the entire fleet. Their tech is too advanced for us to fix, Mark reported back to Walker. We'd need years just to understand how it works. But, he paused, an idea forming. Captain, their life support systems are actually simpler than their power grid, and their cryogenic pods run on basic electricity. We might not be able to fix their quantum drives, but we could keep them alive. Walker nodded. This was what humans did best, finding simple solutions to complex problems. How long would it take to rig up some kind of power transfer from our fusion reactors? A few days for the first ship, maybe a week to figure out how to safely power up all their critical systems. It won't get their fleet moving again, but it'll keep them alive until we can figure something out. In the alien bridge, Commander Wren watched the humans work with a mixture of curiosity and hope. His people had expected to die out here in the cold of space, their mighty ships turned into floating tombs. Instead, they had found something remarkable. A younger species with simpler technology, but with an incredible drive to help others and solve problems. Why? He asked Walker through the translator. Why do you help us? You know nothing about us. Walker's answer was simple. Because you needed help. That's all we needed to know. The commander looked out at the stars, then back at the busy humans. Perhaps their quantum drives had failed for a reason. Perhaps they had been meant to find these humans, who could teach them that sometimes the simplest solutions were the best ones. Around them, the great fleet floated silently in space, waiting to be awakened. The situation was getting worse by the hour. Engineer Lisa Torres stared at the readings from the alien fleet's life support systems, and her heart sank. The emergency power reserves were draining faster than they had first thought. "Captain Walker," she called over the comlink, "we have a problem. The cold is causing the power cells to drain even faster. At this rate, we have less than 4 days before the life support fails completely." In the Horizon's command center, Walker looked at the holographic display showing all the refugee ships, 50 massive vessels, each holding thousands of sleeping refugees. The task of saving them all seemed impossible, but humans had a long history of doing the impossible. "What about the backup generators we brought from the Horizon?" he asked. "They're helping, sir, but it's like trying to fill an ocean with a garden hose," Lisa replied. "We need something bigger, much bigger." Earth's response to the crisis was swift. Within 24 hours, every space-worthy vessel in the solar system was heading their way, carrying power generators, supplies, and engineers. But even at their fastest speeds, most of them wouldn't arrive for several days. Mark Peters worked with Commander Wren, trying to understand more about their quantum drive technology. The alien commander explained through the now-working translator how their ships had once drawn power from quantum fluctuations in space itself. It was incredibly efficient when it worked. "The system was perfect," Wren said, his large eyes reflecting the emergency lights. "Until it wasn't. One small flaw in the quantum field calculations, and everything began to unravel." "Sometimes the most complex solution isn't the best one," Mark replied, studying the alien engine room. Then he noticed something interesting about the ship's power distribution system. Back on the Horizon, Dr. Emma Wright from Earth Science Academy was analyzing the data they'd collected. She hadn't slept in 36 hours, but she couldn't stop. Not when thousands of lives were at stake. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a diagram. "Their power system is incredibly advanced, but the basic principles are the same as ours. Energy is energy, no matter how you generate it." A plan began to form. They couldn't fix the quantum drives. That technology was beyond their current understanding. But they didn't need to. They just needed to keep the refugees alive until a permanent solution could be found. "What if we daisy-chain our fusion reactors?" Lisa suggested. "Create a power distribution network between all our ships and theirs. It won't be pretty, but it might work," Walker finished. He turned to Commander Wren. "We'll need to modify your power intake systems. They'll have to handle a different type of energy than what you're used to. Will you trust us to make these changes?" Wren looked at the humans, these beings who refused to give up even when faced with a seemingly impossible task. His people would have searched for the perfect solution, trying to fix the quantum drives themselves. But perhaps perfection wasn't what they needed right now. They needed survival. "Do what you must," he said. The next 48 hours were a blur of activity. Human engineers worked in shifts, modifying their own equipment and carefully altering the alien power systems. They stripped parts from the Horizon's backup systems, rebuilt power converters, and created a web of energy conduits between the ships. It wasn't elegant. The hybrid system was a maze of human and alien technology, held together by engineering ingenuity, and, as Mark joked, a lot of space-grade duct tape. But when they activated the first power transfer, the alien ship's lights brightened for the first time in years. "Life support is stabilizing," Lisa reported, grinning at her readouts. "Temperature is rising. Power levels are holding steady. One ship down, 49 to go, and they still had to figure out how to save the thousands in cryogenic sleep. But they had bought themselves time, and time was all humans needed to work miracles." Commander Wren watched in amazement as the human fleet grew larger each hour, more ships arriving with supplies and help. His people had thought themselves advanced, but they were learning something important from these humans. Sometimes the best technology isn't the most advanced. It's the most reliable. The makeshift power network was working better than anyone had expected. 6 days after the first connection, 15 of the refugee ships had steady power flowing through their systems. But Chief Engineer Mark Peters knew they had only solved part of the problem. "The cryogenic pods are our next challenge," he explained to Captain Walker and Commander Wren in the Horizons briefing room. "We can't just power them up all at once. Each one needs to be carefully warmed up in the right sequence." The holographic display showed thousands of pods spread across the fleet. Each contained a sleeping refugee, their lives depending on perfect timing and temperature control. "On our world," Commander Wren said, "this process would require quantum computers and automated systems." He looked at the simple control panels the humans had installed. "How can you manage it with such basic technology?" Lisa Torres smiled and held up a tablet. "Sometimes basic is better. Look at this." She pulled up a diagram showing a modified Earth medical system. "We've been using cryogenic pods for our deep space missions for years. They're not as advanced as yours, but they're reliable. And more importantly, we know exactly how they work." The plan was bold but simple. They would adapt Earth's cryogenic control systems to work with the alien pods. It wouldn't be as efficient as the original quantum systems, but it would be safer. Human ships kept arriving from Earth, bringing more supplies and help. The space around the refugee fleet was now busy with activity. Small maintenance ships moved between the larger vessels, carrying crews and equipment. Inside the alien ships, human engineers worked alongside the few awake alien crew members, teaching them how to use the hybrid systems. "It's like teaching someone to ride a bicycle after they've been driving a sports car," one engineer joked. But the aliens were quick learners, and many found themselves fascinated by the practical nature of human technology. In the engine room of one of the largest refugee ships, Mark made an unexpected discovery. He was studying the dead quantum drive when he noticed something about its basic structure. "Look at this," he called to Commander Wren. "Your quantum drive isn't completely dead. The main processor still works. We might not be able to use it for power, but..." "But what?" Wren asked, his large eyes showing curiosity. "But we might be able to use it to help control the cryogenic revival process. Your quantum processor, combined with our simple but reliable hardware, it could work better than either system alone." The idea spread quickly through the fleet. Human engineers began working with alien technicians to create a new kind of hybrid system. They took the best parts of both technologies, the precise calculations of the alien quantum processors and the reliable, straightforward control systems of Earth technology. Commander Wren watched as the humans installed the new hybrid controls in the first ship. "On our world," he said to Captain Walker, "we would have considered this approach primitive. We always sought the most advanced solution." Walker nodded. "Sometimes the best solution isn't the most advanced one. It's the one that works." The first test of the hybrid system was on a small group of 10 cryogenic pods. Everyone watched nervously as the revival sequence began. The pods hummed to life, their temperature rising slowly under the careful control of Earth computers guided by alien quantum calculations. When the first pod opened, and its occupant woke safely, cheers erupted throughout the ship. Human and alien crew members celebrated together. It wasn't just a successful test. It was proof that their two species could work together, combining their strengths to overcome challenges. "We can revive about 100 refugees per day with this system," Lisa reported. "It'll take time, but it's safe and reliable." Time was something they now had plenty of, thanks to the steady power flow from the human fleet's fusion reactors. As they prepared to begin the main revival operation, Commander Wren made an observation that would be remembered for years to come. "Perhaps," he said, "being stranded here was not a disaster after all. Perhaps it was an opportunity to learn that true advancement comes not from having the most sophisticated technology, but from knowing how to use what you have wisely." The revival process had been running for 2 weeks. Each day, more refugees woke up from their long sleep to find themselves surrounded by not just their own people, but by humans as well. Dr. Anna Wilson, the Horizon's chief medical officer, watched as another group of aliens took their first conscious breaths in 3 years. Their vital signs are all stable, she reported, checking her modified medical scanner. The hybrid revival system is working perfectly. The newly awakened refugees were first taken to a large room that had been set up as a recovery area. Here, they learned about everything that had happened while they slept. Many of them were surprised to find that their rescuers were from a species they had never heard of before. One young alien child, just awakened with her family, stared at the humans with wide, curious eyes. "Why do they look so different?" she asked her mother in their language, not realizing the universal translator could pick up her words. Dr. Wilson smiled and knelt down to the child's level. "We may look different on the outside," she said, "but we're not so different where it matters." She pulled out a simple stethoscope. Sometimes the old tools were still the best, and let the child listen to her heartbeat. The refugee ships were slowly coming back to life. Corridors that had been dark and cold for years were now lit and warm. The sound of voices, both human and alien, echoed through spaces that had been silent for too long. On Earth, preparations were underway to handle the influx of refugees. The United Earth Council had voted unanimously to offer temporary settlement on Mars and Europa, where newly built habitation domes could house thousands. It would be cramped, but it was better than dying in space. "Your people are willing to share their colonies with us?" Commander Wren asked Captain Walker, amazed by the offer. "But you barely know us." "That's what neighbors do," Walker replied simply. "They help each other." The cultural exchange was happening faster than anyone had expected. Human crew members were learning the aliens' language, while the refugees were fascinated by human customs and history. They were particularly interested in Earth's old space movies, though they found it amusing how humans had imagined alien life. In the ship's main dining area, now serving both species, Lisa Torres was teaching a group of alien engineers about Earth's history of space exploration. They were shocked to learn how quickly humans had progressed from their first powered flight to reaching space. "Your people achieved so much with such basic technology," one of the alien engineers said. "We relied too much on our advanced systems. When they failed, we were helpless." "Sometimes the best solutions are the simple ones," Lisa replied, a phrase that was becoming common throughout the fleet. Not everything was easy. Some of the refugees were worried about living among humans, feeling they would be a burden. Others were concerned about how they would repay Earth's kindness. But these fears usually faded after their first direct interactions with humans. A month into the revival process, Earth received its first refugees. The Mars Colonial Authority had prepared special biodomes adjusted for the aliens' environmental needs. As the first group landed, they were greeted by cheering crowds of human colonists. Back in space, Captain Walker received a message from Earth that made him smile. The United Earth Council had officially granted the refugees protected status. They would have the same rights as human colonists on Mars and Europa, and Earth would help them establish their own permanent settlement when they were ready. He shared the news with Commander Wren, who had to sit down from the shock. "In our old home," Wren said, his voice thick with emotion, "we had technology beyond your dreams, but we never had neighbors who would welcome strangers as friends." As more refugees awakened each day, the fleet that had once been silent and dark continued to buzz with activity. Human and alien children played together in the corridors, while their parents worked side by side to build a future neither species had imagined possible. It was proof that the greatest technology wasn't quantum drives or advanced computers. It was the ability to reach out and help those in need, no matter how different they might appear. The warning came during a routine deep space scan. Lieutenant Rob Parker was monitoring the long-range sensors when he noticed something unusual at the edge of the solar system. The energy signatures were similar to the refugee ship's quantum drives, but much stronger. "Captain Walker," he called over the comlink, his voice tense. "You need to see this." The Horizon's bridge quickly filled with both human and alien officers as they studied the readings. Commander Wren's face turned a pale shade of blue when he saw the data. "Imperial warships," he said quietly. "They found us." The refugee fleet had been running from the Stellar Empire, a powerful civilization that had tried to force Wren's people into servitude. Now, after 3 years of searching, they had tracked the refugees to Earth's solar system. Captain Walker immediately sent word to Earth. The response was immediate. All available defense ships were being mobilized, but they were scattered across the solar system, and it would take time for them to arrive. "How many ships?" Walker asked. 5 capital ships," Lieutenant Parker reported. "Each one bigger than anything we have. Their weapons—" He paused, checking the readings again. "Their weapons are powered by the same quantum technology as the refugee ships." Commander Wren slumped in his chair. "We fled because we could not fight them. Their technology is too advanced. They will demand Earth hand us over, or they will attack." But Walker was already forming a plan. "Their advanced technology," he said thoughtfully. "It's all quantum-based, like your ships." "Yes," Wren replied. "Everything they have runs on quantum systems. That's why they're so powerful." Walker smiled. "And that might be their weakness. Lisa, remember how we modified the refugee ship's power systems? Could we do something similar, but in reverse?" Lisa Torres's eyes widened as she understood. "Create a disruption field, like what happened to the refugee ships, but controlled." She grabbed her tablet and started making calculations. "It's possible. We'd need to modify our fusion reactors to generate a specific type of interference." The next 48 hours were a blur of activity. Human engineers worked alongside alien technicians, converting power systems into weapons. They couldn't match the Empire's advanced technology, but maybe they could disable it. The Imperial ships entered the solar system with confidence, their massive hulls gleaming. Their commander's message was brief and arrogant: "Surrender the refugees or be destroyed." Earth's response came from the combined human refugee fleet. Walker stood on his bridge, now crowded with both human and alien crew. "We don't surrender people who ask for our help," he transmitted back. "And we don't respond well to threats." The Imperial commander laughed. "You primitives barely understand space travel. Your weapons are centuries behind ours. What can you possibly do?" "Show them," Walker ordered. Across the human fleet, modified fusion reactors spun up to full power. The energy they released wasn't meant to destroy. It was meant to disrupt. The same quantum field instability that had disabled the refugee ships now filled the space around the Imperial fleet. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, the Imperial ships began to lose power. Their quantum drives, their weapons, their shields, everything connected to their advanced systems began to fail. "Impossible." The Imperial commander's voice crackled through failing communications. "How are you doing this?" "Sometimes," Walker replied, "the simplest solution is the best one. Your technology is so advanced that you never considered how vulnerable it made you. We're not attacking your ships. We're just creating an environment where they can't function." The Imperial ships hung powerless in space, surrounded by the combined human and refugee fleet. Their mighty weapons were useless, their advanced systems offline. They had no choice but to withdraw or be captured. As the Imperial ships retreated under minimal power, Commander Wren turned to Walker. "You could have destroyed them while they were helpless," he said. "Why didn't you?" Walker watched the Empire ships disappear into deep space. "Because that's not who we are. We fight to protect, not to destroy. And sometimes, showing mercy to an enemy is the strongest message you can send." The refugees who had feared Earth couldn't protect them now saw their defenders in a new light. Humans hadn't just outsmarted a technologically superior force. They had done it without losing their humanity. 6 months had passed since the Imperial fleet's retreat. The landscape of Mars had changed dramatically, with new biodomes stretching across its red surface. Inside them, humans and refugees worked together, building a shared future neither species had imagined possible. Captain Walker stood at the window of the newly constructed Unity Station, orbiting between Earth and Mars. Below him, ships from both species moved back and forth, carrying supplies and people. The refugee fleet's massive ships had been permanently docked at the station, transformed into living spaces and research centers. "It's hard to believe how much has changed," Commander Wren said, joining him at the window. The alien leader looked different now, more relaxed, wearing a combination of his people's traditional clothes and a human-style jacket. "The Earth Council meeting starts in 10 minutes, Walker reminded him. Today was important. The refugees would officially become part of the solar system's governing body. The station's main conference room was filled with representatives from both species. Dr. Emma Wright was giving a presentation about the latest breakthrough, a new type of hybrid drive system that combined human fusion technology with modified quantum processors. "By learning from each other," she explained, pointing to the holographic display, "we've created something better than either of us had before. The new ships will be faster than our old ones, but more reliable than the quantum drives." The Earth Council voted unanimously to approve the refugees' permanent settlement rights. They would maintain their own culture and traditions while becoming full members of Earth's growing space civilization. The Mars colonies would be just the beginning. In the station's educational center, Lisa Torres watched human and alien children learning together. They were studying the events that had brought their people together, now known as the Great Rescue. "Why did the quantum drives fail?" a human child asked. "So we could learn to work together," an alien child answered simply, making Lisa smile. Sometimes children understood things better than adults. The Imperial threat wasn't forgotten. Earth had established an early warning network using the modified fusion reactors. If Imperial ships ever returned, they would find not a primitive civilization, but a unified society that had learned to combine the best of both worlds. Commander Wren's daughter, now a student in the Mars Academy, had become a symbol of the new generation. She worked with human scientists, teaching them about quantum mechanics while learning Earth's practical engineering approaches. "Your people could have just helped us survive," Wren said to Walker as they left the council meeting. "Instead, you made us part of your family." Walker shook his head. "We all became something new together. Look there." He pointed out the window at a new ship under construction. Its design was neither human nor refugee, but a perfect blend of both styles. The ship was the first of its kind, a joint project called the Unity class. It had the reliability of human engineering and the sophistication of refugee science, but it was something entirely new. The quantum processors were simpler than the old ones, but worked in harmony with human systems rather than trying to control everything. 10 years ago, Walker said, "we looked at the stars and wondered if we were alone. Now we know the answer, and it's better than we imagined. We're not just neighbors in space, we're family." The station's observation deck was crowded that evening. Both species gathered to watch Earth's sunset together. Children played games that mixed elements from both cultures, while adults shared stories and dreams for the future. A small memorial plaque hung on the wall, written in both human and alien languages. "Here began the Great Rescue, where two peoples learned that the greatest technology is not in machines, but in the ability to help others. Together, we are stronger." As the sun set behind Earth, casting golden light across the station, Walker thought about how far they had come. What had started as a rescue mission had become something much more, proof that different species could not just coexist, but build something greater together. The stars beckoned, and now they would explore them as one people, bound not by common biology or origin, but by something stronger, the choice to help each other when it mattered most.